All right, so let's go ahead and get rolling. In this presentation, we're going to talk to you guys about how you can modernize your Appian data architecture. But really what we're going to tell you about is how you can leverage Data Fabric to get more value out of your Appian applications and hopefully make your job a little bit easier at the same time. Now, before we really get going, I just want to get a quick sense of the audience. So if we can just do a show of hands, how many of you guys rely primarily on Data Fabric already or synced record types in your applications? Okay, a few people. All right. Now, what about a blend with folks that use both Data Fabric and the older custom data types and data store entities? A few people, okay. All right, anybody whose Appian applications rely entirely on custom data types and data store entities? All right, excellent, good. I'm loving to see the mix. All right, and then for those of you who are left, anybody who's not sure, don't know what those words mean, or don't have any Appian applications yet, which is also a totally valid category. All right, okay, so I do this to get a sense of the room, make sure the content's good, but also to set the tone for the presentation, to let everyone know this presentation is going to apply to you no matter where you are on your Appian journey. For those of you that have yet to take advantage of Data Fabric features, we're going to try and tell you as much as we can about why it's valuable to do so and how it's easy to do so. And for those of you who are already very deep into the Data Fabric features, we're going to make sure that we try and cover some of the latest additions that add further value to the ongoing adoption of this great technology. All right, so I know all that sounds great, but I also know that adopting new technologies can be painful and expensive. You can have things that used to work break. You can be forced to adopt 100% of the new versus 100% of the old, or just migrating data and users and code can take a really long time. And I know these pain points from personal experience, having worked in enterprise software for a while, but also because I have some experience in having done this at a previous company, and it's painful for customers and the vendor alike. So let me tell you that story. One of the proudest moments of my enterprise software career was creating a new application for doing health and safety inspections. Now, this is at a tiny niche software company that no longer exists, but you're going to have to take my word for it when I tell you that it was absolutely awesome. It was everything our customers had been asking us to do for years. But there was a pretty significant problem with this, and that was that it was a brand new technology that was meant to entirely replace the old, and it did not integrate in any way with anything that customers were currently using, which meant that if we wanted to get them to use it, we just said, oh, all you have to do is completely re-implement everything, painfully migrate all of your historic data, because of course it's not even in the same schema, and force your users to use a completely different user interface. So the barrier to entry was really high, and there's a reason I'm telling you this. The reason I'm telling you this is now that I work at Appian and in the Data Fabric group, I get to tell you all about all these great new features we have without having to have you go through any of that pain. We don't have to convince you to do any of that because Appian's Data Fabric coexists with existing technology. Now that applies both to Appian's technology, meaning the CDTs and DSEs that your applications might already be relying on, but it also means anything else throughout your enterprise that you want to keep in place, because that's the way that Data Fabric was built. Okay, so thanks for letting me tell you that story. Now we're going to get into the agenda. I'm going to start by covering what is Data Fabric, in case you haven't gotten that explanation already. And then from there, the bulk of the presentation is going to focus on that second bullet. How can Data Fabric benefit you? After that, for those of you who are already armoire deep in our Data Fabric, we'll be sure to cover some newer features and benefits, particularly for the low-code developer persona. At that point, we'll briefly point you to some additional resources, and if there's any time left, we can take some questions at the end. All right, presenting with me today, I have Kinjal Sanghvi. Kinjal is a product manager on our Data Fabric group who focuses on sync and scaling. I am also, my name's Aaron Rapp. I am also a product manager. Thank you, Kinjal. Also a product manager on their Data Fabric group, and I focus mainly on security and record access features. All right, so let's start with the obvious question. What is Data Fabric? So Data Fabric is a set of features that provides our customers a way to connect to their data in real time across the enterprise to where data lives as the source of truth. Instead of the old model of months-long integration projects for each individual source, we instead provide a framework for you to model that data inside of Appian, create relationships between the different sources, and use that virtualized data layer when building applications. Let's take a look at a quick example. Let's say you have an order fulfillment application, and you have a data model that will be found in Appian, so those data sources you see on the screen there. But in order for this to work, we need a lot of data from other data sources. In order for that to work, we need to relate the data together across records, which we in Appian call relationships, shown in the blue arrows. Once we've done that, the entire data model becomes accessible in Appian as shown here. Now, the important thing here is that from the developer point of view, the source system becomes entirely irrelevant. Once you've modeled your data, developers are able to access the data no matter where it lives without having to worry about ETL processes or API lag or things like that. Data Fabric removes all those concerns from the developers so they can concentrate on creating great applications. Also, another benefit of this is, like I said, without the lag, you get much, much better performance. So those two things allow us to deliver on our vision for Data Fabric. We want the applications that you build with Data Fabric to be fast to build and performant without complex database optimizations like indices and things along those lines. Now, the first two things have always been part of our Data Fabric, but recently we've added the third item, which is fast to insight. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but I think it's important to note that we now consider this central to the mission of Data Fabric. So, have we delivered on this vision? We have all sorts of statistics that we could use, but I'm going to start with this one. 71% of our customers are already using this technology somewhere in their production applications, which is pretty good for an enterprise technology that's only been around for a couple of years. But we're not satisfied with that number. Not only would we like to see this number go up, but we also know that's not entirely representative of how much customers could use Data Fabric. That just says that you're using it. So I'm hoping the presentation will give you guys some ideas for all of you and help us contribute to that mission. All right, so now we're going to move on to the heart of our presentation, which what are the benefits that you can get? So let's start with, back up. 3 benefits. Drive value faster. That's the big one. And then we have also added democratize your data and making the data you already have more valuable. So we're going to get started with driving value faster. And at this point, I'm going to pass the presentation to Kinjal.
Thank you. All right. So we've built Appian's Data Fabric in a way where beginners are easily able to navigate through our guided low-code interfaces, and experts are able to use these same low-code methods to build applications faster and to drive value faster using synced records. For some of you who are already into Appian's Data Fabric, this whole section might work a little bit like a refresher course, but it also highlights the simplicity with which you can connect data across multiple sources. And I am going to start by demonstrating the creation of a synced record. Again, some of y'all might know that it's really easy to create these, but I want to emphasize just how quickly you can build a synced record. All right, so here I'm building a simple order record type for an order fulfillment application. As you can see, I started by creating a new record type object. And now I'm also going to provide it with some security to make sure the right group of people have the right level of access. And once we do that and build our record type object, we'll then be redirected to the record type designer. All right. So Appian lets you explore data that's already in your existing data sources and use that as the source for your record type. This is exactly what you see in the video here, but you're also able to create new data models from scratch, and we'll publish it to your data sources just as easily. It's really easy. Now, once I click on this finish button, we'll have finished creating a record type. Now, I've demonstrated creating a synced record without speeding this video, and it took all of 52 seconds. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you have applications that use existing data already, creating a separate record type version for them, a synced record type version, takes less than a minute, and it unlocks a lot of benefits that Data Fabric can provide. All right. Now that we've gone over the creation of it, record sources, data that's in same sources or multiple sources are bound to have some tight associations. And Appian provides you the ability to create these relationships. Now that I've created the order record type, I might want to create another one, like maybe customer record. And then I can build relationships between this. Building these relationships eliminates the need to collect data in one system, like Aaron mentioned, and it also lets you not build multiple database views using multiple queries with multiple tables in your sources. So you can use record types and then use record queries to access this data through your data fabric simply by traversing through these relationships. Now, oops, sorry, my bad. Simply by traversing through these relationships. And this low-code UI over here is how you build it. It's very easy to build these relationships. If this does not convince you, I'm going to give you a quote that you already saw from some of the customers that we've had. They've been able to use record types and relationships to be able to build their application and produce it faster without a single line of SQL. All right. Now, it's not just building a synced record that is faster, but we also provide you out-of-the-box capability to build your applications faster. For example, you're able to build interfaces that demonstrate your data much faster using a guided UI. Here, I'm building a UI for my record type. Again, it's all no code. And once I do that, it creates an interface for me, which I can then go into and customize if required. And that's how it looks. I'm going to pause a little bit over here. The speaker's notes are one slide behind, or 2 slides behind. All right. It's not just that, but you can also provide the end user with the capability to take action on your data from these record views with a few single clicks. On the record type designer, you're able to generate record actions, such as create or delete, with a few simple clicks again. And once you do that, Appian will create a process model and an interface for you automatically, which you can, again, then go into and customize more if required. But if you don't want to, all you'd need to do is make sure that these actions are visible on your view within your record type designer. So we're able to help you create your applications much faster. Okay, so I wanted to mention here that we've divided these features into 3 categories, but as we move ahead, you'll notice that driving value faster is a common trend with data fabric features. This is something that all our features go through. And with that, I want to move forward into democratization of your data, or in simple terms, making sure that the right people have the right access to data and they're also able to take informed decisions on this. With Appian, you as a low-code developer are able to drag and drop design objects, build charts and dashboards very easily for the end user. But we want to make sure that we are enabling the right people to do this themselves. So as a low-code developer, why would you be interested in this? Before that, I think you've already heard a little bit about this. We're talking about Data Fabric Insights. Data Fabric Insights is now available in Process HQ, and it helps the low-code or the end user discover the data that's within their data fabric, visualize this data, and then even make decisions and actions on the data that they have. This helps them answer their common business questions. All right, so now as a low-code developer, why should you be interested in this? Because this enables the end user or the business user to self-service these analyses, which makes sure that they are not relying on you to build these dashboards and charts, and they don't have to wait for a development cycle to get access to data that can help them with these business problems. Also, any security rules that you create for these record types will be adhered to in Data Fabric Insight as well. So you don't have to worry about the right people not getting access to the data or people seeing data that they should not be seeing. All right. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how you as a low-code developer will do it. It's very easy. Once you have your order record type, all you need to do is go into the record type designer, go to workspace, and make sure that this record type is visible in Data Fabric Insights. And that's it. That's all you need to do as a low-code developer once you have record types. And I'll also give you a brief demonstration of what the end user sees. They're able to access their entire data fabric through their relationships and build different charts, different graphs that would then help them answer some of their business questions. Now, I want to make I want to highlight something important here, that even if you're using CDTs and data stores for most part of your applications today, you can very simply create a record type for some of your important data sources to make sure that your end user has access to this powerful tool. You wouldn't need to change or migrate your CDTs to record types. You can simply create a separate version for synced records for that data source. All right, so I spoke a little bit about this with Data Fabric Insights about security, but we really cannot talk about democratization of data without talking more about security. Oops. So within Appian, we have features like row-level security that, combined with Data Fabric Insights, helps end users get access to data that they need to see, visualize, or take action on seamlessly without having to go through multiple sources and make sure that you're adhering to your security rules in your companies. Many companies, many competitors out there are trying to restrict access to business data because their reporting tools cannot get the security that their applications have. But with Appian, you can use a combination of Data Fabric Insights and row-level security to make sure that you're not worried about publishing the data to the wrong people. So to dive more into row-level security, let's take an example. A rule like technicians can only see open repair requests for customers in their location seems like a very reasonable request to ask. But across data sources, this is actually very hard to implement. It's really slow, it's painful, and it needs custom code. But once you have all these record types in Data Fabric, you're easily able to create these row-level security features for your records, and we will comply through these across your sources. And you can do this again using a low-code UI that we have on the record type designer. All you'd have to do is go to record level security and create a new security rule. And over here, every time you see us go through these drop-downs and go through these arrows, we're actually traversing relationships to go through the security rules. All right, and at this point, I'll pass it on to Aaron again.
All right. So Kinjal did a great job of showing us how Data Fabric can be used to drive value faster and democratize your data. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can make your data more valuable. Okay, so I'm going to start with getting better performance. Now, if you have better performance in your application, your users aren't waiting as long, better results. Very simple. So the best way for me to illustrate this and how the success that we've had are some case studies. And I'm also going to note that these are illustrative of exactly the kinds of problems that the Data Fabric helps us to solve. So in the first example, we had a customer that was using a lot of stored procedures in order to provide the data to their users. And I don't need to tell you guys, stored procedures, database views, they're hard to maintain, they're complex. So in this case, they were able to replace that by creating synced record types, relating the data together, and replacing all of that difficult to maintain code with a single sub-second query. So that's a common use case for getting better performance while taking advantage of synced records. Now the second and third ones are pretty similar. In the second case, we had a healthcare customer that was incurring a 1 to 3 second lag because of a VPN. By converting to sync records, taking all of the data inside with our syncing technology, we were able to manage all of that in the background and instead query the data directly and get a 1 to 3 second cutoff because we got rid of the lag that was introduced by the VPN. Now, the third example is very similar. In this case, again, a lag, this time introduced by an API. And I want to take a break and just note that for a lot of you who deal with APIs, we're talking about performance, we're talking about speed, but we're also talking about reliability, right? Sometimes these things fail, they're not ready. We don't want to rely on that for the end user. We don't want the end user to have to rely on whether or not the API was successful in that particular moment. By using sync records, we're able to bring that into the background, manage that all for you, and the users don't have to deal with that. Not only do they get better performance, but the data is more reliable, especially for some of these older systems that may not be up all the time or have frequent errors when issuing queries to them. Okay. All right. Now, I'm just going to take you through a couple typical stories for how a low-code developer might go about upgrading to synced records to achieve better performance. This is a really generic kind of example, but let's just say you have a bunch of expression rules that aren't performing very well. By simply locating those expression rules, taking the data that you're querying and replacing them with queries to synced records, a lot of times those expression rules might be getting data from multiple sources or joining it up in SAIL, doing complex post-processing. We can simply replace those. Maybe only replace 1 or 2 expression rules across the application. And if those are things that you use all the time, your entire application may get faster. We've seen that over and over again from a lot of our implementers. Now, the second one, I just want to note, again, this is similar to the case studies, but syncing service back record types, that eliminates API lag. I also want to make one other note on that, which is by doing this, you may actually reduce the load on the source system. So you're getting a dual benefit. Not only is Appian going to go faster, but you're putting less of a burden on the source system by managing that in the background and syncing it to Appian. Okay, now in general, there are also some other benefits or like a general set of categories of benefits that come with using synced records, relationships, custom fields. And that is things like replacing that very ugly database view on the right-hand side that I do not want to look at any longer than I have to, so I'll switch. We also, again, I mentioned, eliminate post-processing, reduce the overall number of queries that we have to issue, reduce the amount of volume that we have to bring back. And if we have cross-source queries where you need data from multiple systems, a lot of the analytical tools that are out there will query all of that, bring it all in, do a lot of post-processing and provide it to you. It's very, very slow. In Appian, because we sync it into our database, into our data service, that becomes much, much faster. Okay. All right. So hopefully I did a decent job here of telling you about the better performance that you get. But I also want to give you one more example of how Data Fabric can make your data more valuable to you. And that's process insights. I know you guys heard a lot about that already. But I do think I have, hopefully, maybe a unique angle that'll resonate with you guys, just from personal experience. I don't know, we'll see. But just to cover what kind of stuff comes out of process insights, this is just an example finding. I'm oversimplifying, and I hope you can hear more from our experts on the kinds of things that can come out of this. But by analyzing the data, events that occur in your process over time, we're able to get findings in a dashboard pretty much out of the box in process insights. Something like maybe cases that are in the USA that are at franchises are 3 days slower. But really what I want to talk about is why should we care, right? Why is that important to a low-code developer, IT people? And I'm going to describe this as the solving the wrong problem, okay? So I'm going to tell a story. I once worked on a project where we had a monthly data validation and loading process. And the business stakeholders came to us and they said, it takes too long, we can't possibly process change because the data's too old by the time we get it. We need this to go faster, right? And they were right, it took 10 days. It was a very manual process. So we said, sure, like, yeah, let's automate it, great. And we did that, we were really proud of it. And when we're done, we had automated almost all of it, gotten rid of the manual steps, and it only took about 2 days to process this. But the real key here is, were the business stakeholders happy with these results? And unfortunately, much to my chagrin, the answer was definitely not, right? And well, why, right? Like, why would they not be happy with these results? And the answer is, they kept coming to us to say, hey, this thing is the thing that we're waiting on, because it was the last step in the process. It was the only thing they saw. But no one ever took the time to holistically look at everything that was going on in the process of getting that data, because if they had, they would have seen that there was actually a step way before that was 20 days long, and even if that 2 days went down to 0, it was going to make absolutely no impact on whether or not they were able to drive the business change that they wanted to see. Now, other than my own personal trauma therapy, I'm telling you this for a better reason than that, which is that this is exactly the type of problem that Process Insights can help you solve. Mentioned earlier in the presentation about this, right? A lot of times, the decisions on what projects to do don't get made on data because this kind of analysis doesn't get done. And the good news, and the reason why you're hearing about this in a Data Fabric presentation, is that Data Fabric can help you collect the data that you need to do that exact kind of analysis. And you can see the steps there. You already saw how you can create a synced record type. We also covered how you can create record actions, and if you do it in this actual order, you'd actually get the event tracking for free, or a lot of it. But what I want to show you, and I think we saw this once before, but we're going to see it again, so it's in context of this discussion, but we can also create event record types. And that is the data that's going to drive the insights in Process Insights. So what does that look like? Well, we're again in Record Type Designer, and if I haven't created my actions yet, I can go to the Events tab. And you can see there are 2 buttons here, right? Use existing record type. So if this is data that you already have, let's say you're already collecting events, or you can filter an audit log or something like that, you can use that. But in this example, we're going to generate it for you, which means we're going to generate the 2 different record types that we need to collect that kind of data. And in this case, we're going to track 2 event types, created and updated, or actually 3, and added a comment. Those are the standard ones you get for free, but you can also add your own if you wanted to. So if you had like a back order status or what have you for an order record type. Now, once we go through this wizard, we can user clicks generate, and then it's going to automatically generate those record types. Now, if you do have those other event types, which I think a lot of you will if you're going to get real value out of Process Insights, there is one additional step, which is changing the write records node on the process model associated with your record actions. Again, you'll get the standard ones for free, but there's a minor change. I'm not going to show that here. I just wanted to let you know so you couldn't accuse me of skipping steps. But if you don't believe me, hopefully I did a good job of showing you that this is really easy to do. But if you don't believe me, this is a quote from an implementer with recent experience using this, who had a pretty good experience with doing that and said that it's pretty much out of the box, which is a statement I can agree with. All right. Okay, so to recap, we told you about how you can drive value faster, democratize your data, and make your data more valuable. But I also know that we probably have some folks in the audience that are, again, more deep in the data fabric and want to hear about what might be coming next. So for that, I'm going to turn it over to Kinjal.
Thank you. All right, we'll get into some of our new data fabric features that might be more appealing to the low-code developer audience that we have over here. And starting with a new sync configuration in the sync record types. This is something that will make sure that your record types do not fail even if they're crossing the 4 million row limit. All you'd have to do as a low-code developer is provide to us with a date and time field, which we'll take, and then every time you go through a full sync, we'd sync the latest 4 million records. So we're ensuring that your record type does not fail by making sure that we're syncing the latest data every time. This is a new configuration that's already available in 24.1. All right, and then the second is performance query. Now you heard all from Aaron about how record queries can provide greater performance, and that's true. However, even highly performing systems need to be investigated to be further optimized. And that's why we've added a new monitor in 24.1 that lets you see all the queries that are being run, their performance, their information such as the rules that are calling it, the interfaces, and the functions that are generating these queries. And in the upcoming release, we're also going to let you see the actual query that was being executed. And this will provide you more insight into the query and its impact on performance. This information will let you make the best decision on how to further optimize your performance across your various applications and your various sources. I'm clicking the wrong button every time. Okay, lastly, this is a sneak peek for a feature that is coming soon. We're expanding our source filter capabilities for synced records by making it more flexible. We're adding the ability to filter the data you want to sync based on a relationship built within Appian. This was a lot of words. So what this basically means is you're able to sync only the data that you want to based on a related field. For example, you're able to choose to sync only comments for a related case that is active. This will make sure that you're syncing only the most relevant data into Appian based on your base record. We're very excited about some of these features that are coming out, and we hope that this makes Data Fabric an even more appealing option. And like Aaron said, we want to see that number go up, and we're always hoping to improve it for you all. And with that, I'll hand it over to Aaron again.
All right, so hopefully everyone's as excited as that, right? Okay, so I'm gonna hammer home this main point, right? We've said it probably half a dozen times. Adopting Appian's data fabric doesn't need to be a giant migration, right? A lot of technology projects look like from old to new, right? Where everything has to be changed out, and that can be very powerful. We wanna see you do that. We wanna see the numbers get there. But we're encouraging you to do that a little bit at a time because it lowers your risk, and that's the thing that's going to make the most sense for your business, right? We're not suggesting anyone do a big migration, but there are so many opportunities to get the value, and we encourage you to look into the use cases that you hopefully saw in our presentation today that will be most impactful for your business. Okay? All right. So what's next? Well, I'm going to repeat that. Again, the most useful thing you can probably do after this presentation is find a use case that's relevant to you. Obviously, that's going to be, I think, more effective than anything else like a tutorial or what have you. But we have that too. We also have tutorials available on YouTube. We have great documentation available in Appian. And also, if you want to find out more about this during Appian World, we have some sessions going on tomorrow that we definitely recommend and suggest that you guys check out. All right, so I think we have some time left. We definitely have questions. All right.
I can get the mic.
I'll let him manage that. Who goes first?
For a related action, if a user updates data, how quickly does it become available? I guess, how quickly does it get stored to the database, and then how quickly would it become available to other users of the application?
Immediately. It happens all in one transaction as part of the write record.
Great, thanks.
Yep, great question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have to modernize some applications that are made on the old way. Do you have any how-to or run book or whatever?
Yes.
Guide to do that
update
transition?
that? Yeah, so there's definitely tutorials that are available on YouTube. There's information available in the documentation. And I know we actually have a lot more resources than that. Those are just the two that I had prepared on the slides. But if you want to come find me later, I'll be happy to get you in touch with the right people and point you to where you need to go. Go ahead.
Okay, two questions.
I didn't need to answer them all. Go ahead.
Sorry, one was the security that you set up on a row level. That seems quite laborious at the moment, and you've got thousands of users. You don't really want to go through and say, this group has got access to these rows, where we use AD groups at the moment to sync. Is there any plans in the future to make use of those groups and do the syncing that way? Because they automatically come in to Appian, the AD groups. We don't want to have to go in manually and do stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Want me to take this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So what you saw in the demonstration was not like on a per row basis. It allows you to set it per row. So like if you just wanted to say everyone in this group can see all the orders, that's fully available and you don't have to go through it on a per row basis. But if you have as part of that row, say like a creator, and you only want the creator to be able to see a record, or you only want the creator and the assignee or what have you, different roles throughout that record type, then you could set that up on a per row basis so users would only see different rows that they're supposed to. But we absolutely have customers that sync with AD and use that information to drive security.
Okay. Just final quick question.
Sure.
On the syncing, how often does it sync? Is it real-time syncing or is it
For the row level security?
no, for records, just in general?
Oh, so that depends on how you set it up. If you set up a schedule sync, you can create a schedule for it to sync it once a day. Typically, we set it up in the night so that the sync process completes while no one's working, and then you can schedule a sync every day. If you schedule it, it'll be every day. So that's something that is on our radar. We cannot do it now, but we definitely have a few use cases for it.
The other thing I'll note is that if your source system has the ability to tell us that it changed something, like through a webhook or something like that, we do absolutely support that. So we can keep them up to date in real time through that technology if the source system supports it.
Yep.
Quick question on the record syncing. So you said now that 4 million row limit is no longer kind of exists. So there is a way that you can sync the new rows post that day, right?
So it's not that the row limit doesn't exist. We'll make sure that even if your data source has 12 million rows, that is not hindering you. So you'll only be able to see the latest 4 million rows once you have that sync configuration.
Okay, so that limit still exists.
Yeah, the limit still exists. It's just that we want to avoid breaking the record type in case your data volume increases and you don't have a source or a source filter. And so whenever that happens, if you have this, say for example, you have a record type that has 1 million rows and you still have that configuration, nothing's going to change for you. But if your volume increases and you have that configuration on, if it increases through say an end user who's added something, the record type won't fail. We'll just make sure that we're syncing the latest data.
Got you. And the second part of that is about this syncing. Like, does it really get persisted in the backend, or is it really somewhere in the memory? Like the data itself?
Yeah, so it's in our Appian data service, which is really like a plethora of technologies. So it's not like one or the other. We have a lot of different things that are taking place. I actually am not the expert on that. We do have a product manager here. His name is Daniel, who manages that service.
Okay.
But it's a bunch of different technologies that we meld together to get the best of all of the different things that they provide. So I don't know that there's a strict one or the other answer to that question.
Essentially, we're just caching all the information, and your data source still remains the true source of information, which is why if you're scheduling syncs, everything that's in your data source, we'll cache it within Appian. What we're helping with is the end user. When they're accessing this data, we're going to use the cached data so that these queries are faster and there's no lag.
Okay, I had a question regarding the events in the records. Is there any opportunity to track the previous values and to save them into the database, like triggers in database, for example? Let's suppose that the users will change a specific value from 10 to 12, and in the record history, I need to see that a specific user changed the previous value, which was 10, into the 12 value, the new value.
So I think with record events, you're able to identify when a change was made to a row. But identifying that the specific row or like the specific field was changed is not something that you can do yet. But what you could do is this value was updated by this person at this time. And that's an event that you can actually track. And you can track that every time the value is being changed by multiple people.
but we cannot track the previous one.
I think what you're asking for is like an audit log.
Yeah,
like it's
an audit
typical.
log.
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
exactly.
We do have customers that have that, but you would need to implement that. It doesn't come out of the box.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Back to the 4 million row limit. You said something that confused me a little bit. If, for instance, we have 4 million rows that we load in for the first time, and then the next night we get an entirely new set of 4 million rows or 3 million rows, and then the next day the user wants to do a query on that data, including all 7 or 8 million rows. Are they able to query all 7 or 8 million rows, or just the last batch that was synced?
Just the last batch that was synced. So this will help you with your sudden increase in data volume. But what it also will ensure that if your data volume has increased, you'll be alerted. And then if you feel like your data volume's more and you want to restrict it using a source filter, you'll be able to go in and add that source filter without having the record type break and then letting you know that your data volume has increased.
But if we often use more than 4 million rows at a time,
That's
data sync's not going to work?
Yeah,
for us?
that's a use case where we would recommend using a non-synced record type. It's on our roadmap to continue to increase the amount, but the reason that that limit is in place is to ensure the performance that we expect.
Thanks.
Is there a one-way sync or a two-way sync? So are you writing back to the source system?
Yes. So when we have an immediate sync or when an end user changes something on Appian, we'll write that to your source and then sync that into Appian as well.
Hi, I have a quick question on data fabric. My understanding is more like creating a data layer or virtual layer for analytics and AI and dashboard. But there is an talk around that we can use it as an integration, which I don't think that's the main use of data fabric. It's not like an integration tool to integrate between two systems. It's more like creating a data layer from disparate system for the dashboard. Can you answer that question, that what exactly, like, can we use data fabric as an integration between two systems or no?
The reason we have data fabric is to help people build their applications really, really fast. As a result of that, and in order to enable that, we have a lot of great integration capabilities, but that is not strictly what it was designed to do. So do we have customers that use, to some extent, Appian as like a middleware in some moderate use cases? Sure. But in general, that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to enable you to bring the data into to create applications fast.
Got it. Thank you. That helps.
All right, I think we don't
I
have...
see you got one more.
Oh, okay.
There's a question about record events. We're actually migrating an application right now that has a ton of old audit tables. Can we enable record events on top of those?
Yes. As long as you have the data that you need in record events, which an audit table sounds like it would, you'd probably have to put like a source filter on it to make sure that it's the right, so you don't have like way more rows than you need.
Okay.
But you absolutely could use that. You should be able to use that because it has the right data to source those event record types.
Okay, sounds good.
One quick one. Is the process HQ part of 24.2?
Yes, I think Process HQ is something that we just released. It has Data Fabric Insights and Process Insights together.
That's part of 24.2.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Newish to Appian. So forgive me if this is a silly question, but
No silly questions.
is Data Fabric appropriate for a use case where you have enterprise level read access, but not write access to an external to Appian table?
So you want to bring the data into Appian and do stuff with it only inside of Appian?
Yes.
Yeah,
but
you
not
can,
write back.
Yeah, you can do that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Especially if your data is in multiple tables in your source or in multiple sources and you want to use it even just to show a visual to the user of how the data looks, you can use Data Fabric for that because it will help you create your applications faster and also
So if you currently only have access via API to certain data, what needs to change in order to have it be part of Data Fabric?
So you could create a synced record type, which is backed by an expression. And that would be, we basically use the API to get the data into the record type.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. I think we're
think
out of
that's it.
questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
I'll say one more thing, which is, and thank you guys. Feel free to come find us if you got other questions.